Okay, I won't lie. It's taken everything in me to not go and stream Final Fantasy 14 right now. But I know I need to get this video done, and I know as soon as I start it, I'm gonna get into it. Just I'm getting so in love with 14 right now because Shadowbringers is so great. But as you can see here, I've got all the secret reports for Neo the World Ends with You saved as a video right here. I didn't go and do it myself because I don't got time for that right now because obviously making videos and stuff like that and school and all that kinds of stuff, you know, I got a lot going on. But just like I did with Kingdom Hearts 3 back then, I didn't get those either at first, but I wanted to make the video on it still at the same. So I did that. I found a video online. If you want to watch this for yourself, you can look at the link in the description. But yes, all of the secret reports for Neo the World Ends with You, I'm going to go over them, react to all of them, and read through them all in one video, just like I did for the first sets of secret reports for the first game and like Kingdom Hearts, etc. But let's go ahead and see what these secret reports for Neo the World Ends with You is all about. I do want to say Square did provide me with the game, so that's how I was able to get those videos out. So much love to Square for sending me a code for the game. And this will include spoilers for the entire game. I mean, you don't get these until after you've already beaten the game. So needless to say, there's going to be spoilers everywhere. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. 30 minutes later, let's actually get into this now. Okay. Ow. Okay, yeah. So this video is, from what I saw, this video goes kind of fast. I didn't read them, but we're going to be pausing a lot. Secret report number 1. 3 years have passed since the game that caught the attention of the higher plane. Observation is still ongoing, but from the UG, it looks as if Shibuya is on the brink of catastrophe once more. I am forbidden from intervening in the game this time. So I'll have to settle for recording the changing state of both the RG and UG here in this report. This sounds like Mr. Hanakoma because he intervened last time and he said this time, so that's what I'm assuming. The Executor first intruded on Shibuya 3 years ago. Originally from Shinjuku, this angel started a clandestine game with Shibuya's composer, which ultimately led to Shinjuku's destruction. This referring to Kubo and Shiba. He should have been reprimanded as soon as he arrived in Shibuya, but the elites are turning a blind eye for some reason, possibly because most higher plane denizens still oppose Shibuya's impurification. Why do y'all care? Why do y'all care? I don't understand that. Why do you guys even care? This game resembles said impurification in that it's subject to a set of extenuating circumstances somehow keeping it in balance, which are as follows. 1. Difference of opinion and subsequent conflict on the subject of Shibuya's destruction. 2. The absence of a composer. 3. The game being played by 2 proxies. And 4. Direct interference by the Executor. So neither the Executor, who wishes for Shibuya to be destroyed and impurified, nor the composer, who has managed to prevent this up till now, can directly intervene in the goings on of the UG. If they wish to take action, they must do so via proxy. The Executor's proxy in this game is the conductor Shiba Miyakaze, and the composer's is a human player, one Rindo Kanade. Okay. I will henceforth refer to Shiba Miyakaze as the conductor and Rindo Kanade as the proxy. Perhaps spurred by the appearance of the proxy, former Reaper Sho Minamimoto has resumed activity after an extended period of silence. Furthermore, I'm picking up vibes similar to those emitted from Shinjuku just before its purification. They are still faint, but I will keep a close eye on them. So this is Mr. Hanakoma. They're doing this. This is all from Mr. Hanakoma. He's monitoring what's happening during this game, even though he wasn't even in the game. That's cool. That's cool that they're going with that approach for this. With a proxy in place of an acting composer, the game is affected in numerous ways, the most significant being the implementation of bogus rules by the composer. That's your weight. With a proxy in place of an acting composer, the game is affected in numerous ways. Okay, yeah, bogus rules by the composer. One such rule is the division of players into teams, presumably adopted from Shinjuku's rulebook. Because that wasn't in the first game at all. That's why even Beat was like, you know, that's what we doing now. You got teams now. You know, player versus player is weird. Because, you know, the Reapers game was always, you know, players versus Reapers. You know, that's how it was. You know, player versus Reapers and the noise. But, you know, I mean, you still have to win and see who lasts the longest. But they actually had us actively going up against, you know, the other team, which even I thought was strange. But, you know. Under the team system, whichever team earns the most points over the course of the week may choose to either continue playing or not. If they choose not to continue, they may return to the RG if they so desire. However, only the composer can send players back to the RG. The conductor has no right to implement such a rule and no ability to carry it out. So before, when he said he was talking about Rindo, when he said he was talking to Rindo, I'm going back too far. He said he was talking about Rindo and he was going to refer to them as this and then as that. So which one did he say? Miyakaze as the conductor and Rindo as the proxy. Okay. So he's the conductor. So he doesn't even have the power to do that. Yeah. So wait, so why is that the case then? I'm skipping all over the place, dude. But the conductor has no right to do that. So even if somebody chose not to go back, they wouldn't have even been able to come back. So what would have happened if they did win the normal way? I mean, they did win a normal way, but then they, you know, he didn't let that happen. But as such, it is in the conductor's best interest for the winning team to choose to keep playing. To ensure this will happen, he has allied himself with a team clearly intent on continuing the game indefinitely, the Ruin Bringers. Yep, because Shiba was the leader. Dude, this guy goes like, it's crazy how it teleports all the way back. That's crazy that he ended up doing that, but I mean, it makes sense. Each team's relative value is measured against the others using their scores, and a loss for the team is a loss for each individual within it. It's unclear when these rules were first implemented in Shinjuku, but what is clear is that they seem specifically designed to eliminate players counter to the objective of the game. Exactly. I literally said that. It's literally counterintuitive to what's supposed to be going on here. A new player has joined the proxy's team. The inability of the composer and myself, the producer, to intervene puts Shibuya at a disadvantage. But this new recruit and Minamoto may help turn the tides. That was Nagi. The new team's member, one Nagi Usui, is at once open-minded and closed off. Interestingly, this makes her the perfect foil to Kosai Furusawa. A healthy variety of personalities and abilities should benefit their team. Yeah, they are really different. The proxy has started using his powers in earnest. I can scarcely believe someone could have such a powerful latent ability. Latent powers are unique, naturally occurring abilities awakened by tuning vibes. These vibes originate from the higher plane and resonate with the soul of an individual. Tuning them into their dormant powers, incidentally, these vibes are the same ones required for travel between planes. So Rindo would be able to use his power to go between planes too? It is highly unusual for multiple players with latent powers to appear in succession. I suspect the pins found in the RG have been imbued with tuning vibes for the express purpose of seeking out such individuals. The more hands the pins make their way to, the greater the chance of finding promising new players. And he was looking for Neku, and that's why he had put those pins out in the RG. So we know how that ended up turning out. Neku did end up coming through, but not because of him. However, the proxy's ability is a significant deviation from standard latent powers. Yeah, because nobody had powers like that in the first game. It is far too dangerous. If I could, I would have ensured it remained dormant for the sake of both the UG and the RG. It has the potential to not only warp but demolish the lower plane's code. I wonder if the composer foresaw this and chose his proxy because of it. So what exactly is the purpose of the Reapers game? Let us review. The explicit goal of the game is to locate exceptional individuals. Players of superior imagination are elevated to the higher plane and made into Reapers or Angels to aid in the oversight of their region. Does that mean Mr. Hanekoma was a player at one point? Or was he just born as one? Is anybody just born as one? The UG is located on a higher plane than the RG. It is understood to be the afterlife as the soul is modulated and relocated to the UG upon the death of the body in the RG. However, the proxy and his fellows were brought to the UG unmodulated. They have already begun to suspect that something is amiss in respect to both themselves and the Ruin Bringers. I thought that was a pretty great twist, especially with how much we knew of the Reapers game from the first game. They weren't dead. That was a big twist. I was waiting, for the reveal. Oh, they actually were dead the whole time, but that wasn't the case. No, they just were alive. The Reapers should be fighting for their lives, same as the players, but Shibuya's internal Reaper hierarchy is a total standstill. 3 years ago, Shibuya's acting composer and conductor carried out a game to determine Shibuya's fate. The events that unfolded are now known as Shibuya's impurification. The hierarchical freeze presumably stems from opposition to the impurification. I detected a new set of vibes in the UG at the end of the day. It seems those pens have awakened new powers within someone and modulated them for entry into the UG, just like the proxy. This time, it is someone the composer and I know well. Wait, is that referring to Beat? When he came in? Because I'm assuming it's going day by day and week by week. It's going in order that the events happen, kind of like what the first game did. He had notes for what was happening each day, of each week. A turf war called the Scramble Slam has just taken place. The Runebringers declined to participate. If they had, they surely would have won, leading to a decrease in overall morale. I suspect this little diversion, which pits players against each other in place of noise, exists purely for the entertainment of the conductor. Yeah. This week's marks the 104th game under the current conductor. The Deep River Society, the Varia Beauties, and the Pure Hearts have all been subject to at least 30 loops. Oh my goodness. They are beginning to show signs of fatigue, presumably sensing the impossibility of victory against the Ruinbringers. Bro, 30 weeks, dude. Oh my gosh. Perceiving the game as unwinnable has a marked negative effect on players' well-being. Yeah, man. The Proxy's team have been able to avoid coming in last place, but the odds of them toppling the Ruinbringers to claim victory are slim. Although anything can happen in this game, they may surprise me yet. Minamoto has become aware of the Proxy's powers and seems to be plotting something. He definitely did. That's when we noticed he was seeing those birds. The Proxy's soul is beginning to change. Strangely, it is an evolution trend towards the stagnation rather than development. It's almost as if the range of his vibes is shrinking. I believe this may be due in part to his readiness to adopt the opinions and values of others, mistakenly believing them to be his own. He seems to do this entirely unconsciously. He may never realize it's happening. Yeah, they were saying he doesn't make anything decisions by himself. Under ordinary circumstances, players in Shibuya's game pay an entry fee upon arrival, through which the composer offers them a chance to re-examine themselves. This game has no entry fee. I said that when I was first playing. I was like, there's no entry fee? I was thinking that maybe, because I was like, okay, they didn't remember that they had died, so maybe, that was their entry fee. But then they said, no, they just didn't die. So I was like, okay, then what's the entry fee? But they never brought it up the entire game. So I was like, okay, well, I guess there isn't one this time. Because, Neku's was his memory. So I thought maybe their memory of, their death was, all of their thing. But that just didn't make any sense to me, At least that's what I thought at first. The Shinjuku rules neither encourage nor allow for personal growth or change, making the game just that, a mere competition to collect points to prove one's worth. The Proxy's stagnant soul makes him the perfect user for his latent ability. For better or for worse, he is able to maintain abnormally high levels of imagination, thereby increasing the accuracy of each replay. The pieces fit together almost too perfectly. I can only hope I'm overthinking things. That's he's calling it replay too, because he observed Fret saying, hey, you should call it that. Deep River Society has been erased in accordance with the rules of the game. The souls of all members, including the leader, are gone. The erasure runs counter to the goals of judging each player's ability, but it is unsurprising considering the conductor's intentions. Upon witnessing the erasure, the Proxy's vibes have weakened once again. His increasingly hardened emotional state may be cause for concern. As suspected, the individual who arrived in the Proxy's moment of need was the source of the vibes I detected a few days ago. It does not appear as if the composer had a hand in the sudden appearance of our old friend. In sharp contrast to the ever-active Executor, the composer is seemingly biding his time and being beat. Although I am unable to make contact to confirm, I believe the reappearance of this particular individual works in Shibuya's favor. Minamoto, on the other hand, has all but vanished from the Proxy's side. His noise refinery sigil drastically heightened his imagination, which may be why he can clearly recognize the Proxy's abilities. Yeah, that's from the whole taboo thing, that was going on with him in the first game. I have an idea of what he's planning. It's dangerous, but I have no way of stopping him. Incidentally, the noise refinery sigil is a reproduction of copied from its original by a certain Reaper. Is that when Coco brought him back to life? Its completeness or lack thereof may be a factor in the subtle change in Minamoto's fundamental vibes. Huh. I want to know more about what he was doing when he wasn't here, you know, because he ditched us, you know, in week 1 and didn't come back till the end of week 3. 4 teams remain: the Runebringers, the Pure Hearts, the Very Beauties, and the Wicked Twisters. Only one may survive and emerge victorious. At long last, the game approaches its conclusion. Yeah. According to Shinjuku's rules, incoming players' abilities must exceed the total average imagination of the current players for to be allowed into the game. As the game continues and low-ranking teams are eliminated, the average rises, making it more and more difficult for newcomers to enter. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, why aren't new people coming? Because these guys went 30 weeks without any new players. You know, were these just the teams that were here when we got there? Or was nobody getting eliminated this whole time? Because these guys went on for 30 weeks. So maybe the people that we play the game with, they weren't there for 30 weeks, but they, you know, came along the way too. They're not really going into that. So I'm not too sure what that really means. With the Deep River Society gone and the Wicked Twisters' impressive latent abilities, the average imagination has increased dramatically. Only an immensely powerful player could be pulled in at this point. It can be safely assumed that the game will continue and conclude with no more than the current set of players. Yeah, only one more person got in after that. The game will continue into the week after next at longest, but the conductor has yet to contact the composer. It is possible he is unaware of the higher plane purification protocol. If all goes according to the conductor's plan, he himself will be the victor of this game. What's the point of that, though? What do you get out of that? Our new arrival has joined the Proxy's team, almost as if filling the hole left by Minamoto. Daisuke Nojo Bito, also known as Beat, was a player in the game leading to Shibuya's impurification. His fortitude is remarkable, as is his soul and imagination. He should prove a powerful ally to the Proxy. Yeah, dude, I loved him joining the team. And yet the Proxy's soul remains stagnant, or perhaps it would be more accurate to say it has stagnated further. It felt a similar shift 8 days ago when Minamoto joined the team. If this is the fundamental immaturity of the Proxy's soul, it will be difficult to bring to the light, unlike Neku's leading up to the purification. Yeah, bro, you're regressing a lot. It's crazy. And I definitely noticed that about Rindo. It seemed like his type of character growth was very, very different. I brought that up in my video, that the way that his character grew in that game was very different than Neku's. Neku's was very linear. He starts off probably the lowest he's at in the entire game, and he goes and goes further, even though he gets sad later on and stuff too, you know, when things happen. But he still grew as a character though, and it was constant throughout the whole game. You know, Rindo was fluctuating at certain points and stuff like that, as you can clearly tell that, you know, Mr. Hanakoma is even noticing in the secret reports here. The Proxy initiated another replay today. The resulting drastic increase in planar distortions indicate that at this rate, an explosive increase is likely after only a few more uses. However, the Proxy's pin is effectively absorbing the distortion, preventing the UG and lower planes from being affected at this time. That's a good thing at the moment, because if they just all died, you know, that would have been crazy. All the Reapers stationed in Shibuya, including the conductor, would ordinarily be referred to as Shibuya Reapers, but ongoing conflict has caused those from Shinjuku to be called Shinjuku Reapers. Shinjuku's inversion 3 years ago jump-started its purification, forcing the Reapers there to flee to Shibuya. An inversion happens when the boundary between the UG and RG is destroyed, forcing a purification. It occurs, albeit incredibly rare, when the composer and the conductor fail to agree on the purification. The composer's permission is not required for a Reaper to continue working in a new area. Such transfers are left up to the conductor. In this case, Shibuya's temporary conductor at the time authorized the transfer of all Reapers from Shinjuku to Shibuya. Yeah. I detect, oh, that was because Pinky, they call her Pinky so much I'm forgetting her real name, Yashiro, I believe, that she had allowed them in. So I detect no signs nor vibes from the Shinjuku conductor at present. I assume he was destroyed along with Shinjuku. They never really talked about that, actually. Once a purification has begun, it is standard for the conductor to be invited up to the higher plane. There is almost no evidence of a mass personnel transfer after the erasure of a conductor in the past. Almost. Upon reviewing the records, I managed to find 4 cases where the affected area had fallen into imbalance before its purification was decided. One of those cases is Shibuya's purification. The composer should file a report on the circumstances leading up to Shinjuku's purification at some point, although I doubt he'll do a thorough job of it considering his disinterest in the lower planes. With Shibuya's composer giving his taxi approval to Shinjuku's Reapers, the Shibuya Reapers have no choice but to follow the rules given to them. Regardless of the true circumstances, Shiba Miyakaze has effectively become the conductor through legal means as he was judged to be fit for the role. And y'all had no idea what was going to end up happening. Restlessness builds among the team leaders, and the proxy's psychological state is far from optimal. I can only hope he will last the week. The team's base groove is abnormally low, and a system built around teamwork, such irregularities have a major effect on the outcome of the game. Is this around the time that him and Fret start arguing a bit? I'm wondering. A network called the RNS was created specifically for this game. The ease with which it measures each individual vibes and imagination makes it a useful tool for the management of both players and Reapers. However, making this information viewable also makes it accessible from the RG. That's how Rhyme ended up being able to hack into it. That'd still be super hard to do, but she was able to do that. So it can only be found by those who know of the UG's existence and are sufficiently proficient with networks. Obviously, Rhyme being someone who was in the Reapers game in the first game, and so she's still aware of its existence, and she's a good hacker. No modulation is required to communicate between planes this way, though it is yet unclear if other issues arise as a result. It's possible that communicating through the network could inhibit imagination, just as the full meaning and imagination of a work of art cannot be captured on a screen. Yeah. I'm no longer active as Cat, but if and when I resume, I must keep in mind how my works will be perceived when shared digitally and alter my methods of expression accordingly. Perhaps the developer of the RNS could provide me with some insight in that regard. See, this is where, like, if you didn't realize it was Mr. Hanakoma, you'd know it now, because obviously, you know, it's here. It's here. I figured because he said he was the producer. 2, he knows of Neku and being in the game before, especially since he realized them based on the vibe too, and he had mentioned, before. So it was obviously Mr. Hanakoma. It was obviously him. There had been a change in the proxy's psychological state, as well as an improvement to the relations between the members of his team. This is good news. However, the proxy's soul remains stagnant as ever. I've yet to fully analyze the stagnation, as I'm currently unable to take any action beyond observing and hoping for the best. By Shinjuku rules, the Reapers are limited in the actions they may take. Of course, obstructing players is not allowed on a basic level. The primary enemies that players face are other players, namely those on opposing teams. Thus, any team aiming for the top must go through the Ruin Bringers. The proxy and his team are taking in a different approach against the seemingly unbeatable Ruin Bringers. To what extent it goes against the rules of the game remains to be seen. I doubt the conductor will sit idly by and let them do as they please. If he is forced to make a move, things will either end very well or very poorly, and we know how that ends up going up. As previously stated, Reapers are not allowed to interfere in the game, and yet one of them is currently doing just that. It's possible that her Reaper status will be stripped from her, but where will that leave her once the game is over? That's Shoka, because she was helping them out. Dang, dude, I remember, dude, I was so off and on with Shoka at some parts of the game. I was just like, why are you here just being rude for no reason, And then the last one I expect, to be the one helping us, behind the scenes, even, getting her Reaper status, revoked with Shoka. I did not expect that to happen at all. I legit had no reason to not think it was Motui. Even when we found out about, him not being that great of a guy, I still thought it was him. I thought it was, maybe, okay, it was probably a ploy to help us so he can help himself. That's what I thought, at least. Leader of the Pure Hearts, one Motui Anazawa, has gotten himself into a dire predicament. While alive and online, he found himself a loyal follower in the proxy. If Motui Anazawa is to face erasure, it would likely have a significant effect on the proxy, though to what extent remains to be seen. You know how that goes. Online communication can result in negative or positive outcomes, just the same as face-to-face communication. However, the opacity and anonymity accompanying the digital communication leaves its participants more susceptible to misunderstanding. It must have been quite a shock for the proxy to see Motui Anazawa's true nature, which was invisible to him online. especially since Motui could be snickering and stuff like that about what he's saying, and when he's actually stealing other people's work. But you don't, as a viewer, you don't see that kind of thing. Just like I could be over here snickering, like, yeah, give me them views and stuff like that, behind the scenes, and be like, thank you so much and stuff like that in a video, just to make it in a more, I guess, understandable situation. That's not what I'm like, but still. As predicted, Shoka Sakurane has been demoted from Reaper to player as punishment for meddling in the game and directly assisting players. Reapers face very few restrictions on the RNS. They may interact with the RG freely, so as long as they do not reveal their identities. But should they be demoted, their account is deleted and a separate player account takes place, and that's why she couldn't respond as Swallow. With her old account deactivated, Shoka Sakurane is no longer able to interact with the proxy as its online friend, unless she chooses to reveal herself as such. She has aided the proxy via messaging up to now, but with that option no longer available to her, her next course of action is unclear. I did not expect her to end up joining though. I mean, I thought maybe because of the box art she'd join, but I wasn't sure with the context of the story that was going to happen. The conductor has made his intentions known to the players. Although it would be impossible for him to carry out his goal of destructing Shibuya merely as the conductor, he believes himself to be the executor as well, sent from the higher plane to purify the city. The pure hearts have been erased. As expected, only 2 teams remain, discounting the Ruin Bringers. The Ruin Bringers' true nature revealed. It is likely that the rules will change next game to reflect that the players stand to oppose the Reapers rather than each other. I've detected unique vibes emanating from a certain inanimate object. I found it odd that the old stuffed animal should show up. As it turns out, it is temporarily housing a disordered soul. Shinjuku's conductor saved the soul it contains, paying the price with his own erasure. Oh, wow. They didn't even say that in the game. That's why Shinjuku's conductor saved Sugumi by putting her soul into Mr. Mew. That's why he's gone. That's crazy. An angel's power is needed to free the captive soul, but there is still no sign of the composer, and I am forbidden from meddling in the game. I doubt the executor would be willing to help, considering he most likely trapped it there to begin with. Yeah. Our only option available are to leave the soul imprisoned or locate someone else with the means to release it. I suspect the original creator of the stuffed animal, a player who managed to return to the RG 3 years ago, would be able to assist. Unfortunately, she is currently absent from Shibuya. But not for long. The game's rules have changed significantly. Players as well as Reapers or even the conductor may erase their opponents after defeating them. At the same time, the rules have changed. Shiba made an unforeseen move against Shibuya, and inversion is underway. Oh yes, things got real around here. The noise released by the conductor have destabilized the code of the entire Shibuya region. The lower planes, including the UG and RG, are particularly unsteady. The code is a set of laws that binds together the souls that make up all existence. Think of it as the screws which hold everything together. Some of the Shibuya screws are loose and others have been removed altogether, leaving nothing to support the city but its own weight. In other words, Shibuya is on the brink of collapse. The deterioration of the boundary between the RG and UG is being hastened by rapidly multiplying noise. If the boundary is lost, the city will be torn apart and purified. Something I didn't notice, though, I'm assuming angels are just unaffected by the replays, because Mr. Hanekoma is able to note perfectly everything was happening as if he's from, our perspective, the player's perspective, not the player in game, but the player who's playing this video game. He's able to tell exactly what's happening without any, oh, this happened. Oh, I guess this isn't happening. No, he knows exactly what's happening. Just because he's on a higher plane, he's able to witness everything that goes on. I'm assuming the replays only affect that lower plane, which, and in terms of, the angels, they exist on a higher plane. So they can discreetly and specifically witness anything on a lower plane. And this lower plane being the UG, they're able to witness everything that goes on there. But because they live in a higher one, they're unaffected by it. That's what I'm going to assume. There are many in the higher plane who believe normal purification has no meaning, as it maintains the existing planar framework. However, it is generally agreed that inversion should not be utilized due to the complete loss of character the affected area undergoes as its framework is destroyed and rebuilt. And yet the composer maintains his silence as Shibuya faces the same fate as Shinjuku before it. While Shibuya has undergone dramatic changes, the proxy's psychological state is surprisingly stable. This could be interpreted as a positive personal growth, as he has come to understand the situation he has been placed in, as well as what actions to take in response. Shoko Sakurane has joined the proxy's team. Her extraordinary powers should make her a fine addition. I'm glad she joined the team. I'm really glad she joined the team. One of the Shinjuku Reapers has been eliminated. I suspect the conductor saw this coming. Angels emit vibes strong enough to alter the minds of those in the lower planes. Reportedly, many Shinjuku Reapers have sensed a change in Shiba Miyakaze's personality over time. I wonder how he will feel about all this after the Executor leaves and allow him to return to his former self. The proxy has now used the replay ability 8 times, his pen absorbing the resulting planar distortions and changing appearance with each use. At present, there are no apparent adverse effects. I'm concerned about the physical changes to the proxy's pen. It may indicate some kind of fundamental difference from the other pens. I'm going to be honest, we see the pen so little times, whenever they were like, it looks different now, I legitimately couldn't tell the difference. I honestly couldn't. I don't know if that's just me, but perhaps replay isn't a latent ability at all. It is far too powerful and would make much more sense as a gift bestowed upon the proxy via the pen. The player pens were almost certainly made by the Executor. As an angel, he would be able to prepare special pens at will. Why pens though? It is unclear when and how the proxy acquired his pen. Logically, it must have been on the day he arrived in the UG. Oh, you know what? Remember when Fret was throwing the pen at Rindo? He missed it and somebody else randomly picked it up. We never saw their face, but they picked it up and handed it to him. He's like, oh, thanks. And it was just a random citizen. I guess he saw him drop it and picked it up for him. That's some Persona 4 Golden type stuff. No spoilers, but that's some Persona 4 Golden type stuff, bro. You would never remember something like that. I literally didn't even think about that until right now. All I know for certain is that several factors, including the proxy's fate, were in play that day. In any case, to give him such a pen knowing he is the composer's proxy would be either incredibly brave or incredibly insolent. I'm wondering if that's actually going to play into something here. The variabilities have been erased. This is a major blow to the proxy's team, as Kanon Tachibana provided them with vital emotional support. Tosai Furusawa's soul is clearly the most heavily affected, despite his fundamental evasiveness and unwillingness to show his true feelings. I mean, you honestly can't hide something like that. Once experience leads to one hold a certain belief, it is difficult to alter that mindset. This often leads to bitterness and anguish. I wonder just how much of this bitterness Tosai Furusawa will be able to bear facing. The answer may very well depend on the proxy and his teammates. Yeah, that's why you have homies, man. When you go through stuff, you need homies. It's hard to go through this stuff alone. Still, this is no time for idle talk. The proxy's team is the only one left. The conductor is oddly fixated on the team's unstable state. I would go so far as to say he seems more concerned with his enemies than the battle itself. As events unfold, it is not unthinkable that he might join forces with the proxy. With the conductor's plans laid bare, every Reaper, particularly the Shibuya Reapers, will be forced to choose a side. Some of them who know what I am occasionally try to contact me, but I cannot respond. The Shibuya Reapers will need to grow and adapt if they are to overcome this. They know the Shibuya Reapers, did the two that we actually know, like Kadia and Yashiro, did they actually know who Mr. Hanakoma was though? I assume so. My old cafe on Cat Street, the one that served as my base 3 years ago, is always open to them. I hear that some drop by on occasion. Notably, the faint vibes I felt from Shinjuku have returned to their full former strength. Someone is coming. Someone who can help decide Shibuya's fate. And that is the GOAT, Neku Sakuraba. Neku Sakuraba has returned to Shibuya. As I suspected, the vibes I picked up 17 days ago were his. Being the last team standing has provided the Wicked Twisters with a sense of unity, but Daisuke Nojobito appears to believe it is his sole responsibility to carry the team. I mean, yeah, he had that big brother role, dude, and I was all for it. I can't say he was wrong in his actions towards Minamoto, but the fact remains that he will most likely that he most likely would have been erased by the X-Reaper had Neku not arrived. The team has narrowly avoided disaster. Let's hope they can carry that momentum. Yeah, he definitely was gonna be out there, man. So glad Neku came when he did. Minamimoto's focus was purely on the planar distortions when he turned half noise and went berserk. He may not be able to clearly measure the distortion from the UG, but that he can sense them at all is an impressive feat. I suspect he is also becoming aware of the distortions within himself, along with the fact that these distortions should be undetectable from the UG. Minamimoto seems to have come to the same conclusion I have. Replay is too powerful an ability to be wielded by one from the lower planes. I'm beginning to piece together the Executor's plan. One more thing that concerns me is the proxy's soul. Its stagnation has returned in full force just when it seemed that it might finally fade away. There must be some cause for this. Be it the proxy's fear of Minamimoto or uncertainty surrounding his own interactions with Neku. Doesn't make sense to me though. Maybe more Minamimoto. Or maybe he feels like he has to live up to Neku or something. I don't know. That's weird. Neku Sakuraba has joined forces with the proxy. The composer had sent him from Shibuya into Shinjuku during its purification, presumably to have him handle the situation there and keep him isolated and safe from those who would target him for his abilities. As for the proxy, his soul remains stagnant. I have yet to identify what exactly is preventing its growth. This would be much simpler if I could sit down and talk with him. If only, dude. I really wish Mr. H could come in here, man. After repeated demands, I have finally obtained the report on Shinjuku's purification. On the surface, the game involved a conflict between the Conductor and the Reapers. Yeah. On surface, the game involved a conflict between the Conductor and the Reapers. In actuality, the composer, eager to purify Shinjuku, planted the Executor amongst the Reapers to oppose and take down the Conductor. This explains why the Conductor was erased and the Reapers transferred to a new area. That's crazy. Tsugumi Matsunai had her suspicions about the Executor, so he sealed her soul away to be safe. She was once a Reaper, though the Executor removed her status after she allied herself with her older brother, Shinjuku's Conductor. Oh, that was her brother. Wow. Dude. Oh my goodness. In Shinjuku, to lose your Reaper status is to be erased. Knowing he was defeated, Shinjuku's Conductor used the last of his strength to save his sister's soul in a stuffed animal. That stuffed animal belonged to one Shiki Misaki. A Shibuya Reaper must have taken it to Shinjuku. As a result, Tsugumi Matsunai became the lone survivor of Shinjuku's purification, once more a Reaper, but sealed away and closely monitored by the Executor. She acted through no will of her own, as her soul was trapped by the noise. However, she was still able to send messages to the proxy using her latent trailer ability. The noise trailer abilities is like she just shows them trailers of what's going to happen today. I get it. The noise binding her is now gone. If the damage to her plush vessel can be fixed, her soul will be free. And that's where we get Shiki to come through and fix her up. The Shibuya River is known to be a unique place, even amongst the entities of the higher plane. Its source is in Shinjuku, meaning it should have disappeared in the purification, and yet it continues to flow unseen in its own plane. What an excellent idea to hide souls there to spare them from purification. So when he ended up doing the replay, when they were trapped inside there, they were going to be fine. I mean, Shibuya would have got destroyed, but they were going to be fine. Hachi Suzuki loved the game and cared for his compatriots more than any of the other Shinjuku Reapers. Loved the game and cared for his compatriots more. His actions leave no room for doubt. Most of the Shinjuku Reapers maintained the close bonds they shared back in Shinjuku. I know not what kind of Reaper Shiba Miyakaze was before being warped by the Executor, but judging by the Shinjuku Reaper's unflinching devotion to him, he must have been exceptionally charismatic. Yeah, we never really got to see that. I guess after Kubo was gone, you could say that, but still. It is yet unknown if Shiba Miyakaze will be released from the Executor's influence at the end of the game. Even if he does manage to return to his former self, he'd be forced to face the tragic reality that the loss of his friends was brought about by his own actions. I mean, it's not like his fault, but kind of his fault, but not his fault. Neku Sakuraba is wary of the proxy's powers. The pin continues to endlessly absorb the generated distortions. Absorb but not destroy. They are likely being stored for some purpose. I wonder what the composer thinks of all this. There is still no sign of movement from him. Does he have a plan at all? Tomorrow will tell. So is this the final day here? Got like 3 more left. The planar distortions caused by the replay were all part of the Executor's plan to purify Shibuya. The condition of the proxy and his comrades have taken a sudden turn for the worse. The ability to turn distorted energy into noise is entirely unique. It is likely latent to the Executor, either allowing him to create noise or granting him some comparable power. In essence, the distortions were once souls. They manifest from the thoughts and lost time. In essence, the distortions were once souls. They manifest from the thoughts and lost time of those whose timelines were cut from canonical history. The proxy's pen stores the distortions born from each abandoned timeline, causing them to behave similarly to their source thoughts and birth new distortions. In other words, the pen allows the distortions to grow and multiply with each journey back in time. The birds the proxy saw are new distortions spawned from those stored in the pen, given an order compliant and readily storable form. Similarly, souls need a catalyst in order to take form. The Executor's pen must be the catalyst in this case, generating noise in advance and transplanting the distortion's imagination into them. The Executor is exceptionally adept at handling noise. Oh crap. Yeah. Exceptionally adept at handling noise. There's a strong possibility that the noise's present bird form is temporary and will change at some point. If its shape is undefined and constantly changing, the proxy and his team will have a tough battle ahead of them. Shibuya is in grave danger. Yeah, definitely is. Okay, Shibuya has received a new visitor, one that even the composer must not have expected. It is the very same individual who drew up the report on Shinjuku's inversion. But why would he come to Shibuya? Probably not to take care of the Executor. Whatever business he may have, Tanzo Kubo can wait until after the purification. It seems that Shinjuku's composer, one Hazuki Mika. Oh, Hazuki. Oh, he was the composer. So Hazuki. Wait, they said. Oh, I was thinking conductor. So I was like, wait, wouldn't that make him Sugumi's brother? But no, that was the conductor. Has eliminated the Executor's noise and given the proxy another chance. I have an idea as to why Shibuya's composer must be shaking his head right now. Was he not allowed to do that? I finally determined what was the cause of the proxy's soul to stagnate: his fear of taking responsibility. When reliable allies such as Minamimoto, Daisuke no Jobito, and Neku Sakuraba appeared and took the reins, the relief of being freed from responsibility stilled the proxy's mind. Ironic that it was the famously unsympathetic composer of Shinjuku that led me to this conclusion. Shibuya now owes its continued existence to the proxy's use of replay to undo its destruction. It's up to the proxy to decide whether or not to turn back time. He undeniably has that right. Shibuya has withstood destruction, but now stands to face even greater danger. The challenge before us is one we cannot refuse. He had that choice to literally just to not do it. The proxy's team faced a giant bird-shaped noise. It was reborn from the unstable black bird noise, which were destroyed at the order level and reassembled. This is a clear act of interference with Shinjuku's composer. It allowed the proxy and his team to focus all their efforts on one target. Yeah, that actually made things easier. With feather on the phoenix's tail in the karmic representation of a single temporal reversal, perhaps this was a manifestation of the Shinjuku's composer internal conflict. He has clearly taken an interest in the proxy and his teammates, yet his desire to see Shibuya purified is unchanged. Yeah, after, what happened to Kubo, he still was, trying to run that fade, which I didn't really understand. I thought he'd be like, huh, what happened? But no, that's not what happened. I believe that his interference dealing with the Executor contacting the proxy and meddling with the distortion was more than a simple apology to Shibuya. It provided the perfect excuse for Shibuya's composer to make a direct move of his own. However, Shibuya's composer failed to take the bait, remaining inactive to the very end. His reason for appearing to Neku, Sakuraba, and the others as they connected to Shibuya's imagination was not to help them, but to merely stabilize Neku Sakuraba's mind by reminding him he was there. A look over the vibes recorded by the RNS reveals no evidence of any outside interference. The Proxy's team defeated the Phoenix Cantus through their own and Shibuya strength. They did. I did that. Final one. Now that the game is over, I finally have permission to contact the composer. Several days have passed since then. The composer has already completed 2 orders of business. One of them concerns Neku Sakuraba. Using a sample from a parallel world, one where Neku never went to Shinjuku and instead lived peaceful lives in the RG for 3 years, the composer modified the space and memories around Neku so that he may once again reside in the RG without issue. Wait, so he took Neku's... Wait, so he modified the world and memories around Neku so that he can live in there without issue. That's kind of cool. That's actually really good, you know? So the people around him aren't going to question, yo, where have you been for 3 years and stuff like that, you know? And, you know, now he can have an actual life without having to worry about anything. That's really good. This is not particularly unusual, as the same steps must be taken when returning a Reaper to the RG. The other order of business concerns Shoka Sakurane. Her Reaper status lost, her destruction at the end of the game was all but assured. However, the composer saved her soul at the precise moment it diffused for deletion. She has been reborn in the RG in Shibuya. I believe this is a rare expression of gratitude from the composer's part. Gratitude towards the proxy, that is. Yeah, because obviously he knew that he cared about her. So the proxy has also returned safely to his life in the RG. Through him, I have learned much about the network as a simulated plane of existence, as well as its effects on human emotion. There's no denying its use as a tool to expand one's world. However, it is up to the user to explore the experience that expanded world for themselves, lest it remains a mere simulation. Final note: enjoy the present and keep moving forward. Perhaps by refusing to interfere, the composer meant to convey to Shibuya the importance of accepting your circumstances and taking action yourself. I have one final note, directed at Proxy Rindo Kanade. The decision you made took courage, and I thank you for it. I sincerely hope we can meet in person someday. Man, that hits, dude. That hits. Like, man, Mr. Hanakoma is such a goat. I want to bring this up too. I know we're like almost 50 minutes into this video. I mentioned that, oh, Mr. Hanakoma was a real villain all along. But in that sense, I meant Mr. Hanakoma wasn't necessarily the villain to us. He made himself a villain to his own people, you know, because, you know, being the fallen angel, he ended up taking such a risk that, you know, would even make him be hunted down by other versions of himself from parallel worlds, you know, and that was all because he really cared about these people. He really did, you know, and I think that's beautiful. Mr. Hanakoma is awesome. And even though he didn't actually appear in this game, I now have his full thoughts about everything that happened in this game, you know, and honestly, it really pushed his character forward for me, you know, and I really enjoyed that. This makes me really want a World with You 3. You know, I really want one. I know a lot of people are feeling like, oh, they gave me everything I wanted from this game, you know, everything I wanted, you know, so I'm good now. But honestly, I don't even feel like this game was a sequel. To me, it felt more like it's a continuation of the first. It kind of is like how I feel about Steins Gate Zero. You know, Steins Gate Zero is the sequel, but, you know, even though through its technicality is taking place at the same time or slightly after, you know, you don't have the full story of Steins Gate without Zero. You only have half that story because, again, you can't really get the true ending of Steins Gate without the events of Zero having happened, you know? And the same thing here. This concludes the story of all these characters we met in the first game while starting and finishing other ones, you know? It leaves us with enough to wonder, oh, did, you know, Neku and Shiki get married? You know, did, you know, Shoka and Rindo end up together and stuff like that? Did they end up having fun, or did they die in a car accident somehow or whatever? Because they're not used to being back in the RG, but you know, it leaves it ambiguous enough. I'd love to see a third game. Let's hope it doesn't take another 10 plus years. It's 14 years was a long time for the first one. But man, I really enjoyed that. That was really, really good. You know, I did this all in one sitting. Well, for the most part, besides getting interrupted a couple times. But other than that, I thought that was very good. That was very, very good. And I hope this video was helpful to those who wanted to get the secret reports, but didn't, have time to get it themselves as I did. And I will end up getting them myself like I did for Kingdom Hearts 3 secret reports and the World Ends With You secret reports. But as of right now, I want my thoughts on this matter talked about, because some people were trying to tell me some stuff, but they realized I didn't see the secret reports, so they couldn't really tell me about some things. So now I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So that's going to be it for me. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button for your boy. And if you enjoyed Neo the World Ends With You and want more World Ends With You kind of content, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts, all that good stuff, subscribe to the channel. That way you'll never miss another thing again, especially since I'm loving Final Fantasy 14. I'm probably going to go play or stream some Final Fantasy 14. You have a good one, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Goodbye. I didn't do my usual outro.